sure enough, Pekarska Street brings you up to this entrance, which, if you look on Street View on Google, you'll see some years ago was boarded up. You weren't allowed admission at this point. And sadly, I suspect that the reason behind this is they want to direct you towards this entrance point where they can extract that entrance fee of 50 hryvnia. But, you know, I'm not going to bitch about the 50 hryvnia entrance. It seems weird to pay to go into a cemetery, in my head anyway, just on principle, but when it's 50 hryvnia, $1.50, less than that, then I'm not going to make any complaints. Just going to go in, hand over my 100 hryvnia and get some change and make it work for me that way. The wheels of capitalist industry are turning. And since I told you, oh yeah, the price is 50 hryvnia, that only is true for students and children these days. Their price has gone up to 80 hryvnia. So somebody's lining their pockets with that cash. Or is that a little too cynical? Oh, and I've got to pay 100 hryvnia for photos. Well, you know what? I'm still not going to bitch. I'm really not, because I know this is a handsome place I want to look round. I'm prepared to pay that fee. Okay, let's go pay the piper. And guess what? Yeah, okay, there's a toilet, but I'm not pointing out the free toilet this time. How many of you shouted at the screen, oh, he's going to shout there's a free toilet. He always shouts when there's a free toilet. No, I'm going to shout, what a bargain I just got. The very sweet man on the ticket desk sold me the 80 hryvnia ticket for an adult, and I pointed out I wanted to take photos as well, so I was going to pay the extra 100, and yeah, me volunteering to cough up nearly $3. It's a funny story from yesterday. Maybe that's it. Maybe karma does work. I'll get back to that. But yeah, he said no. And he also threw in this little book all about the cemetery. So if I don't get to see everything, I'm not going to follow it, because I don't know any of the famous people in the cemetery. And also I don't want to have that kind of potted walk around tour, you know, self-guided tour of the place. I want the freedom to just walk and not go cherry picking, not like the people who go to the museum to see the Rembrandt or to see the Da Vinci, you know, and then leave. I just want to walk around and see what's beautiful, and if I've missed anything, it means I've got to come back a third time. But I'll tell you why I'm thinking karma might be at work, shall I? No, please don't. Just show us the cemetery. We've been waiting for ages. That's what the video's called. The Lychakiv cemetery. Okay, let's get on with it then, shall we? I'll tell you while we're walking. Yesterday, after I popped out to get a bit of food, I didn't feel like doing too much else, I returned to the hostel, and there's an elevator, a lift from the ground floor, which can take you up to wherever you want to go. The 4 floors, maybe 5 floors even of the hostel. And unfortunately, when I was going in, I was going to the 4th floor, there was a young lady who was very drunk. This was the middle of the afternoon, bless her, but she had a bouquet of flowers. She was dressed in shocking pink, and the smell of alcohol on her was, I've never smelt that on a woman before. especially not a young girl who, well, she looked like she'd just been to a wedding reception and had left early. And she was trying to work her phone, trying to work the elevator buttons. And I just thought, oh, this is uncomfortable. But because I've not been 100% well, to say the least, in the last few days, I thought to myself, I want to take the elevator to the 4th floor rather than walk, which I may well on other occasions do just naturally. So I got in the elevator, and then she was trying to make some comments in Ukrainian about my parasol, because it had been raining and I had my little dog design parasol with me, little umbrella. And anyway, I decided to jump out at the 3rd floor instead of the 4th floor because I just wanted to get out of there. I left her to go on to the 4th floor. Whether that was where she wanted to go, who knows. But popped in my room, dropped off a couple of things, walked up to the 4th floor just to put the things in the fridge which I wanted to, and on the ground between the elevator and the door of the common room kitchen area, I found a crumpled 100 hryvnia banknote. And this is honestly true. This is what happened. I don't make things up. I may slightly exaggerate sometimes, but who doesn't with tales? But only very slightly, honestly, if at all. So there was this banknote, and I've been in situations before, and I think I've told you the creepy tale of the Lithuanian €5 banknote. That must have sent shivers down your spine when I recounted it. All those videos ago back in Lithuania, probably. Well, yesterday I decided, hang on, it's got to belong to that drunk girl. So I picked it up, went into the common room kitchen looking for her, looking to see if there was anybody else who was just putting their things down on a table as though they'd just walked into the common room, because it may have been their banknote. And gosh, just so much to see here. Really is an outdoor museum, this place. Can't blame them for charging a fee, can you? You miserable English tourist. Why were you whinging? You got in cut price anyway. Shame on me. But I think it's all to do with this crumpled 100 hryvnia banknote. When I decided to myself, okay, she's not in the common room, not in the kitchen, I went down to reception. A couple of girls on reception. I told them what had happened, what I suspected. Thought the banknote belonged to the very drunk young girl in pink. And one of the girls kept saying, oh yes, I know her, I know her. And therefore, I just got to head off, because I think there's actually a funeral going on over to my right at somewhere. There's a little gathering of people, so I've chosen to come down here, which wasn't going to be my first choice, but I really don't want to be insensitive towards other people. Yes, so I left the banknote with them, and hopefully they were able to talk to her when she was sober enough, and maybe it would all make sense. And who knows where that banknote is now, but hopefully one way or t'other. I did suggest check on the cameras, because you can probably see it's happened in the last 5 minutes. You can probably see with your cameras, because they've got cameras everywhere in the hostel, at what point in the last 5 minutes a 100 hryvnia note fluttered down from somebody's perhaps open pink purse to the floor outside of the elevator just before the common room. And I didn't walk away thinking to myself, oh, aren't I a wonderful human being for doing what I did? I actually thought to myself, I'll be honest with you, because I am, you know. Hey, this should bring me some good karma. And hey, you know what? I've had a rough time of it in the last couple of days. Very, very unwell on the weekend, and I'm grateful that's over, and I'm going to, in my own weird way, feel I'm paying back a little bit. Unfortunately, karma has led me into a bit of a dead end, one might say, but then how can it be a dead end when we see a lovely headstone like this for the director of a school who died in 1926, Józef Nogai. And the other thing about the karma, as I've said before probably and bored you to death with, and people used to at least say things like this in chats while talking about things that have gone wrong or things that have gone right for them in their travels. The subject of karma crops up, possibly because so many of those travellers will have visited countries in the East, or specifically in India perhaps. If I'm going to drop something, and if I do drop something or leave something behind, something important, maybe significantly more important than just a 100 hryvnia banknote, can I expect that somebody else is going to come running after me or make it the best effort they can to return that thing to me? If I don't behave that way myself. You know, it's the old boring thing you get told as kids, or maybe you don't these days, I don't know. Treat people the way you would want to be treated yourself. And that way, yeah, you can feel good about yourself when you do something that's the right thing to do, and is clearly where there's no ambiguity. When that person rushes up to you with the passport, somebody you've never seen before, don't need to say a word, they just look in your eyes, they're holding a passport, you realise, oh my god, it's mine. Somehow I've left it going through security at the airport. Thank you very much. That could have been a very sticky situation. You've got me out of a potential catastrophe, potentially, for a traveller. Yes, the cycle of karma has done its thing, and all because you've done the right thing yourself in the past. By complete chance, I come across the area of the most recent and most numerous burials, just outside the grounds, on the fringe of the grounds of Lychakiv cemetery, the fallen from the war in recent months. Here in Ukraine, citizens of Lviv and its surrounding area who died as a result of the aggression. I'm not going to, I feel too sad, to be honest. and too wretched and like some sort of a bottom feeder in society who films videos of other people's misery and torments just because they think it's going to get them extra YouTube subscriptions. Yeah, I'm not that kind of. I'm proud to say I'm not that kind of person, and I'm not that focused on making money off other people's misery and grief. So I'm going to direct the camera more towards me at this point. And towards other areas of the cemetery. I'm now wandering around and getting lost and half enjoying getting lost, which I often do, and half thinking, well, don't get too lost, you fool, because otherwise you'll end up encroaching on the botanical garden. There's a botanical garden very close. If it's not abutting the cemetery here, then the borders of the two landscapes are in close proximity. Hello, miss. Where did you come from? You've got a lovely face. Yes, it's sad, but it's lovely. Look at that face. Wow. Perhaps you can see why I was struck by her features. While others would probably say that's an implausibly long neck, for example, I was struck by her eyes, the mouth, the face in its entirety. Just as I would if I'd seen her in a museum, not just because she's here in a cemetery. Very different styles, eh? Reflecting perhaps the very differing backgrounds, heritages of the people buried here. Gosh, imagine this is a relative of yours. Valery Lozinski, and drawn by this Baal, Stanisław Baal, director, something or other, free something, you don't know. So lots of people here who've died recently, well, relatively recently certainly, as far as this cemetery is concerned, as it dates back to the 1780s. Having seen that it's a cemetery with 250 years of history, it's only natural that I'm going to be drawn to the prospect of discovering perhaps some of those older sculptures, grave markers. But the good news is there's information here in Polish if it does relate to you and your family members. And if you are a Polish person, you're probably shaking your head in, well, I won't say despair, but just sort of, really? You're supposed to know 20th century history or the important parts of it? Well, for us, these were important parts. And somehow you didn't know them. And that's very interesting up there. On the flag that man is carrying is the year 1981. So, how on earth might this relate to the Polish struggle for a breakaway from communist rule, which 1981, was that the year of the Gdansk strike? And yeah, I just don't know enough, do I? Not by a long, long way. But we are in Ukraine, and this was Soviet territory, not Poland, in 1981. Again, leaving with more questions than answers. Perhaps I've piqued your interest as well. And perhaps where I do potentially pique somebody's interest sufficiently, they will go ahead and do their own research. Rather like with some of the names, figures which I see on memorials, whether it's in a cemetery or in a statue, a plaque on the side of a building. Hopefully it's either an area of interest of yours already, or you will be curious enough to think, I'm going to look a bit further into this. Oh, this looks like a very lovely figure, doesn't it? And a nice little bench where on a hot sunny day I might have been tempted to sit and have a snack for lunch. Just as well I'm not hungry. I was at peace myself. Just visiting the cemetery was my aim for today. Even though I had some thoughts on what I was going to do over 3 to 4 days of roaming around Lviv. Some things I hadn't done before. But I've set them aside for the next time I come to Lviv. Very realistically lifelike human face. Gosh, it would make me weep if I'd known him. Getting a bit choked up now, but I suppose I can blame my croakiness on the bad throat from my weekend illness. I've seen a couple of guides with 2 or 3 folk that they're taking around, very, very small groups. Don't know if a guide in English is available. Didn't really look into it because it wouldn't be of interest to me. It just didn't occur to me, and I wasn't thinking of you out there. I apologise for that, but I really wasn't. Gosh. That figure, isn't it lovely? I don't know what you think, but to me I'm thinking she spread her wings like a bird, like a white dove. She's flown from this earth to somewhere else perhaps. I'm not a believer in such things, but when I see an image like that, that's what comes into my head. Fresh-faced young girl, only 25. Sad but beautiful at the same time.